Hello again. Denny Johnson here, and I thought I would take a few minutes to share with you something that's been going on with me and some things I'm exploring and how that might in some way help you, help our world. I've been examining the nature of fear. Some people might ask, why would you want to examine fear? I mean, nobody really wants to deal with it. Nobody really likes it. Nobody really wants to be controlled by it either. Part of my exploration has led me to examine fear that was primarily created under the age of 3. Fear that may go all the way back to the original conception, and how it's laid down in layers. These layers, by the way, I'm using the structure of the iris to help me determine how these layers are laid down. But first, there's a reason for this. For me, I'm looking at physical symptoms, diseases, pain, suffering, death, and even ecological disasters may very well be connected to fear. So my own life is connected to that. So I'm examining it. That's why I'm going there. So my explanation of this is really based on a series of experiences I'm having. I've been examining fear off and on in my life for decades. But in the last 2 years, I've accelerated it. In the last 3 months, I've been sincerely asking to experience it, comprehend it more, feel it, deal with it. So that's my reason for going there. I know it's odd. You think about, 2 lakes. We're standing next to 2 lakes. One lake is beautiful, pristine, and clear, and well, you think, wow, if I'm going to go scuba diving, I'm going to go in that lake. When you look at the other lake, well, you turn out to find out it's muddy, dirty, filthy, and you want to stay away from it. So, why would you choose to go scuba diving in the muddy lake? Well, that's why I'm scuba diving in fear. I want to see what's there. I want to know how it affects me. I want to know why it controls. Because it controls not only my responses that I don't see, it regulates my life force. It regulates eventually my biochemical systems, regulates everything. So enough of the justification of fear. Let me share with you the beginning of things I've found. Some of them, by the way, are, well, not easy to discover. I'm discovering that the layers of the iris are laid down in sequences. And one of the deepest levels is what we call the tactile or the kinesthetic, or in Rayid terms, the stream structure. And that interior topography of the structure of the iris, the constitutional form, if you will, is laid down on that very deep level first. And I'm well aware that probably 90% of the formation of my iris, or anyone's iris that I know of, is formed under the age of 3. So that first layer has a lot to do with my central nervous system function. That's pretty important. That first layer has to do with my posture and my body, and it also is related to the sense of touch, the sense of smell, and the sense of taste. These 3 senses, external and internal, like taste is not only about how something tastes, it's the texture of something. Gritty, soft, silky, smooth, lumpy. I mean, who really likes lumps in their oatmeal? Well, I don't like them. So I see a series of reactions about like, dislike. I smell something. very deep impact into my psyche. Now, the reason that this is important to understand the layers is to recognize how the different fears are affecting me. The next layer above this, for me, is a feeling level deeply related to my physical body, and this is also relative to the constitutional form of the iris that's related to the flower or the feeling. It's about spatial perception. This spatial perception is very much related to my hearing. My hearing is around me. And it is now like a cat's antenna. It's looking all the time. It's receiving impressions, and it is within 40 milliseconds, my interior mechanism of my feeling is linked into my kinesthetic and my stream, and I'm creating neural reactions, emotional responses. Well, I'm continuously scanning with my hearing all the time. Then above that hearing level is my development of my eyesight. My eyesight really is more strongly developed after the age of 3 than before, because the eye is really not complete in its development until later, even as much as 9, 10, and 11, maybe 12. Depends on the child. But I know that my interior eyesight, linked to my feeling, linked to my physical body, is scanning all the time. Now, the primary development of this area has to do with the development of my sensitivities under the age of 3. So under the age of 3, my eyesight function has no actual memory that is easy for me to access, but my visual memories, my auditory memories, my kinesthetic memories, under the age of 3, they are now set in place. And now they start to scan all the time. Friend, foe, like, dislike, siren, dog, cat, all the time. Hundreds of times a minute my eyesight is scanning. Hundreds of times a minute I'm smelling and waiting and anticipating, and all of it based on a composite of fears laid down in my interior design under the age of 3 that incorporates whatever fears my mother and my father also had. So I now have some composite of my mother's fear, my father's fear about each other, and about life, and about nutrition and finances and well-being. So how do I actually relate to these fears laid down as a small child and forgotten? Later on, my intellectual mind, it just goes along and says, hey, I have no fear, I'm cool, I'm developed, I'm older, yes, but deep inside of me, I'm scanning. I was walking through an airport just a few days ago. I won't explain why. I'm in an airport in North Carolina at 6:30 in the morning. I mean, let's be honest. Who wants to be in an airport at 6:30 in the morning? Well, certainly not me. Well, there were hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't know where all these people are going at 6:30 in the morning, but here comes this barrage of people, and for just a moment, my interior feeling mechanism opened. Now, the reason it opens, well, I won't explain, but I've been spending months asking, yes, praying to feel and experience my fears, how they operate. So, I got a glimpse. I got a glimpse of myself like a radar or, RoboCop. Here I am, I'm going everywhere I'm going, I'm scanning head to toe, and I'm smelling, and I'm watching, and I'm doing, object avoidance. Don't hit this person, watch that person. Here, big guy coming, be afraid, react. And wow. I realized that probably, and I can't calculate this for you, thousands of times a minute. I'm scanning everybody around me. No, we all do this. We do this without our even knowing it. And these scanning mechanisms of sight and sound and feeling and response and touch and tactile and posture and form and speed and mobility. I'm judging where people are going and where I'm going to go next and how to avoid. Okay. Yes, this sounds obvious, right? But what I also experienced was I'm doing that all the time. And because I'm doing that all the time and it's based on fear, very deep primal fear, I'm actually driving my body systems and slowly it's killing me. Yes, fear is an accumulative experience. It's causing my aging. So slowly, the accumulation of my fear-oriented reactions is diminishing my eyesight, diminishing my hearing, diminishing my mobility, my neuromuscular firmness. I get afraid. I'm saying that the accumulation of these fears are slowly contributing to the loss of my senses. For me, this was a very profound realization, but then that's not even the harder part. What I had an experience of is that every time I go out to unknowingly scan somebody hundreds or thousands of times in a minute, every time I go out to scan that person with my fear, I'm actually transmitting a fear. And then it was not an easy thing to realize everywhere I was going while doing all this scanning, I'm actually just transmitting fear-based phenomena. Well, there is a natural law that every time I transmit, I receive the consequences of my transmission. If my transmission is loving, then I'm going to receive consequences that are loving. If my transmissions are unloving and based on fear, because there's nothing really based on fear that is loving, so I'm transmitting hundreds of times, perhaps thousands of times, and each one of these repercussions is coming back to me and accumulating in my physical body, aging my physical body, shutting down a gland, an organ, a body system, and we call that, well, normal aging. Not a pretty thing to recognize that I'm dramatically transmitting from very primal levels of my childhood, not from my intellectual desire to be in harmony with love, but from my very deep levels, I'm transmitting fear. Part of that fear was also attraction, meaning what can I do to be attractive to somebody? Or I'm transmitting a projection. If I like this person, don't like that person, wow, what can I do to get them to notice me? Or this. And then I'm walking along and, well, I'm fed by my senses and I smell cinnamon rolls, one of my childhood favorites, right? So I turn over there and I follow my nose and I just gotta have one of these cinnamon rolls because, oh, by the way, that with a good cup of coffee, and I can actually begin to shut down my feelings of the fear. So I race over to get this cinnamon roll, and this little 8-year-old kid cuts right in front of me. Well, wait a second. He ends up taking the biggest cinnamon roll. So not only am I in reaction in some form or another, you know, I'm wondering why his father didn't say something to him. How can you cut off this old guy and his quest on the cinnamon roll? Well, here I am. I'm not only in reaction to my judgments, I'm in reaction to the father and the kid and the cinnamon roll, and I've just got to have my addictions met for carbohydrates so I can suffocate my feelings. I have to have my caffeine so I can deny my capacity to feel, all because I'm in constant interior fear. Okay, maybe that sounds normal. But here's the hard part. As I came back to my scanning and I just relaxed a little bit, I also had another profound realization. There was not a single person in that airport I loved. Now, come on. Go to the mall, go to the airport, go anywhere. And be honest. I had to be honest with myself. Maybe you're better at this than I am. I don't know. But the reality was I did not love a single person in that airport. So not only am I transmitting a fearful, unloving scanning process from a deeply primal level, at just certainly an emotional level, I did not actually feel or transmit love. Yes, I let myself do all my understanding of their body type and all of this and their iris combinations and all that stuff that my intellect just loves to do. However, the reality was, no. I did not love a single person walking in that airport. Now that's a little bit disturbing. Not only am I in reaction, damaging myself by my fear, and transmitting a damage to them, which damages me and them, and they're damaging me and them, and we're all doing this damaging thing with each other, all based on this collective fear, and all of this collective fear, without even realizing it, is damaging nature and damaging everything else. And well, the study of fear, wow, lifelong process. Without the objective understanding of the natural laws regulating and developing fear, how do I stand any chance to be able to work with it? I'm not saying to you that I can yet access my childhood fears and begin to change them. Eventually, I need to do that. So for now, I'm just leaving this with you. At another time, I'd like to go into each one of these layers of fear and begin to suggest some activities that might be done to change this. But before I can offer that, I think I need to learn to change myself. So for now, I'm facing my own fear.